Okay, so we're going to start with what I'm most familiar with, and we are going to do some basic belly dance makeup. I already kind of prepped my face, but most people would put maybe a concealer. I'm just going to do a powder look, and you'd be surprised at, I've always had problem skin and acne, and instead of putting tons and tons of base on, I kind of go more with the method of accentuating other features to kind of distract from any problem areas. So here are some brushes we're going to use, and let's go ahead and get started. So we're just going to go with a green kind of look, and generally you want to keep the inside towards your nose, the inside of your eyes, a lighter color, and towards the outside a darker color, because that kind of opens up the eyes and it gives that kind of cat look, and otherwise you're drawing energy in and it can make you look a little bit cross-eyed, and that's not sexy for most people. So I am going to go ahead and start finding that bone of my eye right here, and that's where I'm going to really be focusing. I don't want to put too much powder here because it'll start to make my eye smaller, and the more you put in the lid can start to shrink the eye. So for this look, I'm going to come along the ridge, and I'm going to start with the medium tone color, and I'm going to go for the middle. And I'm kind of going a little bit messy. And over time you can kind of move a little quicker. So, and because I'm going to go over this with darker color, I can actually start to go ahead and make the shape with this color right here with this color. So I'm going to look for the kind of the tip of my eyebrow and start to fan it out right there towards the tip. This is the start of the Middle Eastern look. And if you want with the lighter color, because it's more forgiving, you can go ahead and take that tip down to the corner of the eye. I'm going to end up darkening that up, so this is like a good, nice, safe. Usually I wouldn't do this necessarily, I'd go straight for the dark, but if you're just starting out, it's a little harder to erase dark stuff, just like with painting. And let's go for the lower eye as well. So this is going to be in the middle, more or less, and I'm going with a big fat brush here because I'm not trying to get precise. I'm going to do a really clean, dark black line on top of this, so I do want it to come a little low. That being said, this is actually a really important tip. A lot of times you'll notice that I'm dipping into the eyeshadow, and then I'm actually tapping the end, or you can take the top and tap, because otherwise you put it on your eye and all of this dust powder falls into the creases and you look like you have a black or a green eye in this case, and it's not what we're going for here. So keeping it here in the middle, and you can even kind of come towards the corner if you want and add white on top of that. Again, this is the medium tone, so you can add lighter or darker on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that down here on bottom. I'm going to come to the edge. Voila. And usually I just use a cloth or paper towel to kind of clean off the same brush. And let's go for a darker color. Where is the darker color? Okay, so I have, just so you guys can see, these are great. These kits are totally worth it, and it's a lot easier than carrying around a bunch of separate. So let's go for a dark green. And so now I'm going to go ahead and follow that line from the tip of my eye, the outer tip, up to the corner of where my eyebrow is. And you can go less or more, but the eyebrow is a good reference point because it should be more or less even when you're trying to gauge making it even. So I'm coming down, and then I can actually bring that even below the eye a little bit. So that's my line of reference right there, and I'm going to kind of make it darker. And sometimes, I get even more dramatic, and I come because as you can see, when I relax my eye, you can kind of lose a little bit. So I sometimes let my eye relax and I come onto this bone. And I have pretty large eyelids, so I have a lot of room to play, which is really fun. Everyone's face is different, and I'll be working on other models later, so you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm darkening up, right? And this is not very dramatic, it's still pretty light. We can maybe add black later if we want. So now, maybe we can go for, before we do white, let's just go for a gradient into a lighter lime green. Coming now, I'm going to follow that ridge down. And I'm kind of creating a point there. That's very Middle Eastern looking. So there I am. I'm gonna go over the bottom part, so now you can start to see the gradient coming to life. And just start to blend that. Let's go for the other eye. You can kind of see the difference between both eyes right now. And the bottom. And sometimes I blow up like that. Okay. So let's now bring in the white accent. There's a couple places you can use the white, but we're going to go for the inner part. And I'm just doing this with all the same brush. A lot of people would go for smaller brushes, but I'm getting pretty brave and bold with it, and we'll clean it up with the sharp lines. So here I'm going to take the white, and I'm really going to just play with the inner part right here. Right where the tip of the eye is on the inside, and you can fan that out a little bit if you'd like to go up. And then again, I try to see what it looks like when it's relaxed, and then I can get a little bit bolder and even come up. Don't worry about your eyebrows. In fact, it's kind of nice to make your eyebrows go away while you do your eyes, and then we'll redraw them on later. You can also lift your eyebrows if you want. Usually I don't, because I do have a lot of room to play with there. But if you want to, you can take white and go right under the eyebrow. And don't worry if you put white on your eyebrow, because again, we're going to go over that. So you can kind of see that lifts it up a little bit, gives me a little more space. If you messed up, like if you went too high on one side, you can kind of erase it with the white a little bit. So I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to do too much more than that. Let's leave, now my face looks a little off because I, have no lip color on. So, let's do some lips, and then we'll come back to the eyes. I like to start, this stuff will stay, I have hair on it. My stuff's really messy. This stuff will stay on, all night. So you want to be careful too when you're putting it on. So that being said, I'll take something like this stuff won't stay on all night, or this is good. Something a little more like chapstick like. So I take this one, and it's not that much left in here actually, so it's not very dark, so I'm just gonna go ahead. It's like a medium color, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on. I thought that was gonna be darker, but it's not, so that's a good, like, again, starting with like a middle tone, and then let's go for a darker tone on the outside. When I'm lining my lips, I try to go as to the farthest point possible to make my lips look fuller. So sometimes I even come a little off my lips, barely. And then on the bottom, I come a little below. That'll make them look a little fuller. And then I can blend it with the more forgiving, this kind of chapstick stuff. Okay. And then you can blot. You can also add even a lighter color to the middle. I'm just going to do this. This is just like more like color theory. This is eyeshadow. You probably shouldn't use eyeshadow, but you can, if you lighten the middle, it makes your lips look a little bit more plump. And of course you can be as dramatic or less dramatic with that, but we'll go for basic. Let's work our way back up to the eyes. So let's go ahead and do some blush, which is, where's that? Oh, here we go. This will work. This is like a 3-toned blush. You can tell I've used my makeup millions of times. So I'm at the very end, but this is where I'm at, and that's what will happen if you are an entertainer. You'll go through makeup. So to do my my cheekbones, it's helpful to make little fishy lips, so you really know where they are. And a lot of times I kind of ditch the bronze. We'll go over that in Glamour. A lot of times I'll put a darker underneath to kind of narrow in my face and make it look a little bit like I have higher cheekbones. I like to go with the blush towards the top. If you do blush down here, it's going to make your face look rounder on the bottom. So you want to really highlight the cheekbones, and that's one reason I really like using the pinks. This is a pretty thick brush. Again, I'm pretty bold with it because I've done a lot, but you can always use more contoured brushes like this, and that might be a nice way to... For stage shows, you're going to want to go just really dramatic, and because the light will wash you out. Okay, that's good enough for now. Okay, so we are going back to the eyes, and the eyes are really the mysterious, alluring part of the Middle Eastern look, and in a lot of makeup and performance arts, the eyes are most important. So we're going to go ahead and go in with this dark line. I'll do a little and I'll explain later. Again, we're going to have a little dip in the corner. So I like to stretch my eye out, and I don't want to go in the... I don't want to go too close to my eye, because the closer you go to your eye, the more narrow you make your eye. So I'm just going underneath. And actually, something I do a lot, if I don't want it to be a hard line, is while it's wet, I'll kind of start to play with it and work with it. And if it's too wet, I can dry that off. There we go. So I'm using some of the wet of the liquid, but I'm giving it a hard but still a little bit of a smoky look there. That's very much a timing thing, because if it dries too much, you can't do that. So that's a pretty hard line. I'm just going to keep it like that and do the other side. It's okay if it's thick. You want it thicker on the outer edge. Sometimes it's wet enough for me to bring it all the way over here. So you really have to kind of work with it. Okay, so it's perfect enough. So from here we actually have this line, and as you can see, I left a little space. So I'm not completely following that ridge, and that's a fun little place. You can add, again, some of the white. So I'm going to add some white there. You can do as much or as little as you want of this. This happens to be sparkly white, so that's always fun. I overdid it. Okay, good. Okay, so we have the bottom eyelid, and let's go ahead and do the top. I don't want to do too much on the inner part. Again, I'm trying to draw the dark colors out. So I like to kind of stretch the eyelid. And from there, I can kind of, oops, there's still white on there. From there, I can kind of smoke it out if I want. You could even use a little bit of black. I'm just putting a little black there. From here, if you want, you can really accentuate that. You can even bring the black into the green if you wanted to make it more dramatic. So I'm just really following, again, the bone line. I'm going to go ahead and just keep making this more dramatic because we're learning. Okay, but I still want to keep it somewhat green. And for example, that went a little bit too low right there. I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to bring the green and cover that up a little bit. So you can kind of already see the difference between one eye or the other, how that plays. I left the inner part blank because I like to do that with my eye open. So with my eye open, I can draw a thin line. So I did that one with my eye open. You can choose to close it off. You can leave it open like that, or you can choose to close it off. I'll go ahead and close it off. So we got kind of this like bird, a little bit of a bird look. Let's go for the other side. So that one got a little messy. But that's okay, because once it dries, I can put some... Oh, and that'll happen too. So I'm not usually doing a tutorial, so it's not as messy, but that does happen sometimes. So in that case, sometimes if it's still wet, I can kind of like blur it out. Oh, okay, that kind of worked. This is turning into a big mess. But we'll fix it. This is part of it. Okay, so I'm going to get the green back. Kind of like... Now I'm getting more black. So what you should do is if it's wet, don't open your eye. But since it is, I'll fix it. So you can erase this, or you can keep it if you want. But I got too much black now. So when you're trying to rush your makeup, sometimes you can actually take a lot longer doing it because you do things like open your eye before it's dry. And since I was trying to rush to show you, that's what happened. So try not to let that happen in real life. Okay. So that's not so bad. So let's go back to some green. Kind of covering up some of that and comparing it to the other eye. It's starting to look a little bit better. And since that liquid eyeliner is liquid and it does can come out really strong, you can always just go back to the brush and clean that up. Okay, so I got my eyes more or less even, and in the future I will prevent that by keeping my eyes shut a little bit longer. Sometimes I even fan at it. Let's go ahead and just put a little bit of roll-on glitter just to add a little pizzazz. Okay. And I could be done with my eyes aside from mascara at this point, but sometimes you might want to highlight that line with some white. White is a great highlight color. So sometimes I just do a little bit of that. You can see a little bit. And you don't want it to compete with your blush. So you can see kind of where your blush is more or less. So there is that, and we have to put on our eyebrows now, darken the eyebrows. I have pretty dark eyebrows already, but this adds a lot still. So at this point, I'm taking my curved brush, and I always use this one for brown, because my eyebrows are brown. And I go for the top of the eyebrows, because again, I'm trying to make that eyelid look as big as possible. And because I'm really working with kind of a more subtle, I mean, this is still somewhat dramatic, but I'm not trying to change my shape, as you'll see when we do some more circus makeup. Here, I like the point in my eyebrow, so I'm really bringing the point in, and then from there I'm drawing down. Sometimes I do get a little more dramatic, and I'll actually kind of bring this eyebrow all the way and just make it kind of fun and artsy. And then from there I can come in towards, you don't want to, sometimes I like to come down the ridge of the nose. I'm getting more dramatic at this point, which would be more, this is more of a, you know, stage look the darker you go, but at the same time I can get very dramatic, so it's all relative. This is about medium. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to taper that all the way to the end of that peak. And we are now going to give ourselves a little gem third eye. I get these at Michael's or Aaron's and Brothers. They're not actually made for the face. And I'm just going to use this eyelash glue. We'll put on eyelashes in another episode. I'm going to put that. Now the trick with eyelash glue is you need it to get tacky or else it's just going to slide. So you can blow on it or you can move on to something else while it's drying. So let's move on to something else. I'm going to go ahead and do some dots. If you've seen some photos of me, then you have probably seen this look. I either like to go above the eye or below. But let's go ahead and go below. And I'm going to go from small to large, and usually a good point of reference is the corner of the eye here. So if I want to come from there a little bit in, I do a dot, a little bit more pressure on the second one, and go ahead and go big. So there's that. Let's go for the other side. Really important note, you don't want to go too high, because when you, I won't even do this because it's wet and I learned my lesson the first time, but when you smile, you get, you know, crow's feet, and you don't want or when you sweat, you don't want the liquid eyeliner to get caught up. So I try to go a little bit below the sensitive skin that happens in the eye. So here's that, come a little in. Oops, that one was big. So that one came out a little big. Just going more dramatic now because I made a mistake. Sometimes by adding a little bit more dots too, you can kind of make it look more even when it's not perfect. So I think that's good enough for now. Let's see if this is tacky enough. Cool, it should be good. That shouldn't take much more time than that or it'll dry. So I'm going to put a little bindi. I don't want to put it too low because it'll make me look like Frida Kahlo, and I don't want to put it too high because you'll lose the connection from the eyes. So I'm going to try to create like a little triangle from my pupils to this. And put it about right there. Center of the nose. And from there, if I were to do the upper eyes with the dots, I would go from there. But you can do both, but it will look a little bit more like you're wearing a mask. So usually I pick one or I go asymmetrical. Last but not least, we will put some mascara on, which will look really nice with that green underneath because any light colors will really pick up your eyelashes. So sometimes I don't even like to wear black because my eyelashes look bigger. And you can see why I was pretty messy with the green, because if I was too clean, I would have completely covered it up with the liquid eyeliner. So I'm going to just put the mascara on. I'm sure people have better tips as far as this. I just kind of go for the tips of my lashes because I don't like it when it looks too clumpy. So I do that. And there we go. A lot of times I wait till I put the bindi on later because when I crinkle my face, it might unstick, but it should be fine. A lot of times I'll go in for another little powder, or even just to kind of smooth out the forehead after putting on the makeup. And then you have a basic Middle Eastern look for whatever you're going for. These techniques don't just apply for Middle Eastern or belly dancers. They apply in all sorts of basic makeup, glamour makeup, going out, party makeup. So hopefully you can use this in a lot of different types of looks. I branch out of this one all of the time, and we will go into some completely different looks in other episodes. If you liked this basic Middle Eastern look, and you want to see this one and more tutorials on how to do makeup and look like a professional, then you are going to love our e-course called Path to Performing: The Art of Professional Entertainment, and there is a link at the bottom of this video.